I'll never forget the Sunday afternoon that changed my daughter's life forever. My name is As Evelyn Montgomery. I'm a 71 years old a retired prosecutor from Boston, Massachusetts. For more than 30 years, I spent my career standing in courtrooms, looking dangerous men in the eyes and making sure they answered for the pain they caused. I believed I had seen every kind of lie, every kind of manipulation, and every kind of cruelty. I was wrong. Because nothing prepared me for the moment I discovered that the next victim wasn't a stranger sitting in a witness box. It was my own daughter. If someone had told me that the little girl I once carried on my shoulders would someday be terrified inside her own home, I never would have believed it. But evil rarely arrives wearing a frightening face. Sometimes it wears an expensive suit, a perfect smile, and a wedding ring. This is the story of how one family believed they could break my daughter, silence her forever, and walk away richer than ever. They had no idea they had chosen the wrong family, and by the time the truth came out, their entire world collapsed. Bet that Sunday began like hundreds before it. Sienna had invited me over for dinner. She insisted on hosting every month, saying it made her feel like she was finally creating the kind of family she'd always dreamed about. She'd been married to Garrick Ashford for almost 3 years. From the outside, they looked perfect. Beautiful house, luxury cars, designer clothes. Vacation photos from Italy, Greece, and the Caribbean. Every social media picture showed Garrick with one arm around her shoulders, smiling like the perfect husband. But pictures only show what people choose to reveal. They never show what happens after the camera stops recording. As I drove toward their neighborhood, I noticed the familiar rows of enormous homes standing behind iron gates. Everything looked spotless. Perfect gardens, fresh flowers, expensive stone driveways. The Ashford family had always cared more about appearances than people. That wasn't just my opinion. I'd heard enough stories over the years to know exactly who they were. Old money, old pride, old arrogance. When Garrick first asked for Sienna's hand in marriage, something inside me hesitated. Not because of him, because of his family. His mother, Miriam Ashford, had the unsettling habit of treating kindness like weakness. Every conversation felt like a competition. Every compliment sounded rehearsed. Every smile stopped just short of reaching her eyes. Still, Sienna loved Garrick, or at least she believed she did. And every parent eventually learns that some lessons cannot be taught. They must be lived. I parked outside the house, carrying a homemade apple pie, the same dessert Sienna had loved since she was 6 years old. Normally, she'd be waiting at the front door before I even knocked. Instead, nothing. I rang the bell. Several seconds passed. Finally, the door opened. Sienna stood there. My heart nearly stopped. Her left arm rested inside a gray medical sling. A faint purple bruise stretched from beneath her blouse collar toward her neck. She smiled. But it wasn't my daughter's smile. It was the kind of smile people wear when they're trying not to cry. "Mom," she whispered. "You're early." Her voice trembled. Only slightly. Most people would have missed it. I didn't. A prosecutor learns to hear fear long before anyone speaks it aloud. I stepped inside and kissed her forehead. "What happened to your arm?" She froze. Only for a second. Then she looked past me, not at me, past me, toward the dining room, toward Garrick. That single glance told me more than any words ever could. Someone else was controlling the conversation. "I'm just clumsy," she answered softly. I slipped. Before I could ask another question, Miriam's voice floated through the house. "There you are." She entered carrying a wine glass. Dressed elegantly despite being inside her son's home, she looked at me, then at Sienna. "Oh, don't worry about that little injury." Oh, she laughed. My son finally taught her what a real wife is supposed to be. The words landed like ice in my chest. I turned slowly toward Miriam. "I'm sorry," she shrugged casually. "Young women today forget that marriage requires discipline." Behind her, A Garrick walked into the dining room, adjusting the cuffs of his expensive shirt. Tall, confident, perfect posture, perfect smile. The kind of man magazines loved putting on their covers. He kissed his mother's cheek before sitting at the head of the table. Then he looked directly at me. Sienna knows the rules now. Silence swallowed the room. His younger brother chuckled. His sister stared at her plate without saying a word. No one looked surprised, which meant this wasn't the first time. I watched Sienna carry a heavy serving dish using only one arm. She struggled to keep it balanced. Before I could stand and help her, Miriam clicked her tongue. Use your good arm. You girls always exaggerate everything. Sienna quietly obeyed, not a single complaint, not one. I suddenly remembered another dinner, 25 years earlier. Sienna was 8 years old. She had dropped a bowl of mashed potatoes onto our kitchen floor. She burst into tears because she thought I'd be angry. Instead, I laughed. Together we cleaned the mess. Then we made another bowl. That little girl had never been afraid of making mistakes. So where had she gone? Who had convinced her that every accident deserved punishment? I took my seat beside her. Her hands were freezing. When I gently touched her fingers beneath the table, I felt them shaking. She kept staring straight ahead, almost like making eye contact would be dangerous. I had questioned hundreds of domestic violence survivors during my career. Some cried, some screamed, some denied everything. But they all shared one thing: their eyes. Fear leaves fingerprints inside a person's eyes, and I saw them in my daughter's. I looked across the table. Garrick. What exactly happened? He smiled without hesitation. She fell. Sienna's lips parted. Very quietly she whispered, I didn't. She immediately stopped talking. Garrick turned toward her. His smile never disappeared. But something behind it changed. It became colder, sharper, more dangerous. What was that? He asked gently. She lowered her head. Nothing. Miriam raised her glass. Marriage takes adjustment, especially when a woman is emotional. I noticed Garrick's hand resting near Sienna's chair, not touching her, just close enough. A silent reminder. He didn't need to threaten her with words. She already knew what would happen if she spoke. I felt anger building inside me, but anger is useless when it's uncontrolled. 30 years inside courtrooms had taught me that. The calmest person usually wins. So I smiled politely. May I sit beside my daughter? Garrick leaned back. Of course. It's your family funeral. Several people laughed. Sienna flinched so slightly that almost no one noticed. I did. That sentence wasn't a joke. It was a warning. I placed my purse on my lap and quietly unlocked my phone beneath the table. No one noticed. Years of handling sensitive investigations had taught me how to move without attracting attention. There was only one person I trusted to understand a message without explanation. I opened an old conversation and typed just 8 words. Come now. Bring the board. Bring Commissioner Fletcher immediately. I pressed send. Less than 5 seconds later, S delivered. I slipped my phone back into my purse before anyone looked my way. Then I turned toward my daughter and gently squeezed her trembling hand beneath the table. She looked at me for the first time since I'd arrived. Her eyes were already filling with tears. She didn't say a word. She didn't have to, because in that silent moment, I made myself a promise. No matter what secrets were hiding inside that beautiful house, no matter how powerful Garrick Ashford believed he was, no matter how wealthy his family had become, before this day ended, someone was going to answer for what they had done to my little girl. And I intended to make sure justice arrived before dessert. The room felt strangely quiet after I sent that message. Everyone returned to eating as if nothing unusual had happened. Silverware scraped against expensive china. Wine glasses clinked. Soft classical music drifted from hidden speakers to anyone walking past the windows. It would have looked like a perfect family sharing a peaceful Sunday dinner. But I had spent decades learning that the most dangerous people often hid behind the most beautiful scenes. I picked up my fork and calmly tasted a bite of roast beef. Then I watched. People always reveal themselves if you give them enough silence. Garrick was the first. He carved another slice of meat without even asking whether Sienna wanted any. Instead, he placed it onto her plate. "Finish everything," he said. She quietly nodded. "Yes, Flyas dear. Not, thank you. Wes." It sounded less like a wife answering her husband, and more like an employee obeying her boss. Across the table, Miriam smiled proudly. "You see," she said. "She's learning." I looked directly at her. "Learning what?" Miriam dabbed her lips with a linen napkin before answering. "Respect." I couldn't help smiling. "In my experience," I replied. "Respect is something you earn." She laughed. "And in my experience, the wives who question their husbands usually regret it." Another silence settled over the table. Nobody challenged her. Not Garrick. Not his brother. Not his sister. Their silence told me everything. This wasn't simply a cruel family. This was a system. A system where everyone had accepted Garrick's authority without question. And my daughter had been trapped inside it. I turned gently toward Sienna. "Sweetheart, how long has your arm been injured?" She hesitated. "About..." Her voice stopped. Garrick answered for her. 3 days. I asked Sienna. He smiled. "We don't keep secrets from each other." His answer sounded charming, but it wasn't. It was another reminder that she wasn't allowed to speak freely. I leaned back in my chair. "What did the hospital say?" "They said it was only a fracture," Sienna whispered. "They wanted me to stay longer, but I came home." Miriam interrupted. "Doctors exaggerate everything. She's perfectly capable of taking care of her husband." I slowly looked around the dining room. Family portraits covered one wall. Every picture showed expensive vacations, luxury parties, holiday celebrations, smiling faces. Not a single photograph revealed the fear sitting beside me. Then something caught my attention. A small security camera sat high in one corner of the room. Interesting. I counted silently. 1 near the front entrance, another above the hallway, a third near the kitchen. Who installs that many cameras inside their own home? Someone who values control, or someone hiding something? Probably both. As dinner continued, Garrick suddenly looked at Sienna. "Tell your mother." She looked confused. "What?" "Tell her why you fell." She swallowed hard. Her fingers tightened around her fork. "I lost my balance." He smiled. "Good." The word made my stomach tighten, not because of what he said, but because of how rehearsed it sounded. She had practiced that sentence before, probably many times. I decided to ask a different question. "Sienna, were you frightened?" For the first time all evening, she looked directly into my eyes. There was pain, exhaustion, desperation. And then, almost too quietly to hear, she answered, "Yes." The room froze. Garrick slowly placed his fork on the table. "What are you afraid of?" he asked calmly. She opened her mouth. Nothing came out. His eyes never left hers. Finally she whispered, "Myself." He smiled again.
"Fear. You see."
"She's been emotionally unstable lately." Emotionally unstable. I had heard abusive husbands use those exact words hundreds of times in court. It was always the same strategy. First isolate the victim, and then convince everyone she's irrational. Then no one believes her when she finally speaks. Classic, predictable, cruel. I decided to test Garrick. "So, how's work?" His expression brightened immediately. "Amazing. My promotion becomes official tomorrow. Congratulations. I'm being named Chief Operating Officer, the youngest COO in Ashford Industries history." His mother applauded proudly. "We always knew our Garrick was destined for greatness." I smiled politely. "Hooray, remarkable achievement." "It is. I assume the board approved unanimously." He nodded confidently. "Naturally. Interesting. Very interesting." Because I knew something he didn't. For 22 years, my late husband and I had quietly protected Ashford Industries from financial collapse. When the company nearly went bankrupt decades ago, we invested everything we had through our family trust. In return, we received 38% of the company's voting shares. After my husband passed away, I became the sole trustee, which meant no executive promotion became official without my signature. And I hadn't signed anything. Not yet. I kept that information to myself. There was no reason to reveal my cards too early. Suddenly, Sienna spoke again, very softly. I found something. Every head turned toward her. Garrick's smile disappeared. What did you say? She looked down again. I found invoices. His jaw tightened. The temperature inside the room seemed to drop several degrees. What invoices? I asked. She took a shaky breath. There were consulting payments, millions of dollars. Companies I'd never heard of. I asked Garrick about them. Her voice trembled. He told me to delete the files. Silence. Absolute silence. Even Miriam stopped drinking. Finally, she snapped. A wife has no business looking through corporate documents. Sienna looked at me again. I made copies. Garrick stood so quickly that his chair slammed backward onto the hardwood floor. What copies? She didn't answer. His breathing changed. For the first time all evening, he looked genuinely nervous. He stepped toward Sienna. Slowly, carefully, like a predator approaching frightened prey. I asked you a question. She instinctively leaned away. My chair scraped loudly across the floor as I stood between them. His eyes met mine, cold, calculating. Move. No, this doesn't concern you. It became my business the moment my daughter became afraid of her own husband. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. The room felt suffocating. Finally, Sienna whispered 3 words. They're still here. Garrick spun around instantly. Where? She closed her eyes. I noticed her glance, not toward the kitchen nor the hallway, but toward the center of the dining table. My eyes followed. A woven bread basket sat untouched between us. Completely ordinary, or so it appeared. I slowly reached toward it. Garrick lunged forward. Don't. Too late. I lifted the white linen cloth beneath the basket. Something black was taped underneath. A tiny flash drive, no larger than my thumb. At the instant I pulled it free, every expression around the table changed. Miriam stood so abruptly her wine glass tipped over. Her face had gone completely pale. Garrick, she whispered. He wasn't looking at her. He was staring at the flash drive in my hand. All confidence had vanished. Only panic remained. Very quietly, almost like a confession, he said. You have absolutely no idea what you've just picked up. I slipped the flash drive into my jacket pocket and looked him straight in the eyes. Oh, Garrick, I think I know exactly what I've found, and judging by the fear on his face, so did he. Anthafi Part 3. The moment I slipped the flash drive into my jacket pocket, the atmosphere inside the dining room changed completely. Only seconds earlier, the Garrick had looked like a confident executive celebrating the biggest promotion of his career. Now, he looked like a man who had just watched his future disappear. His eyes never left my pocket. Neither did Miriam's. For the first time since I arrived, neither of them smiled. I calmly folded my napkin and placed it beside my plate. So, I said quietly, would anyone like to explain why a simple flash drive has suddenly made everyone so nervous? No one answered. The silence stretched for several long seconds. Finally, Garrick forced himself to laugh. You've misunderstood. It's nothing important. I tilted my head. If it's nothing important, then you won't mind if I take it home. His jaw tightened. No. I wasn't asking. I know. His smile disappeared again. I don't think you understand the situation. I met his eyes without blinking. Oh, I understand far more than you think. Across the table. Sienna looked between us, terrified. She knew exactly what was on that drive. She also knew what Garrick was capable of doing to get it back. Very slowly, Garrick stood. His brother immediately stood with him. The movement wasn't accidental. It was coordinated. Years of courtroom experience told me exactly what I was seeing. They had done this before. Intimidation. Surround the target. Remove every escape. Force compliance. Unfortunately for them, I'd spent 3 decades putting men like them behind bars. Garrick walked around the table until he stood only a few feet away. "Mrs. Montgomery." His voice was calm, controlled. "I respect you, but you're making a mistake." I smiled politely. I've heard that sentence many times, usually from men sitting at the defendant's table. His expression hardened. "This is private company property." "No, it's evidence." His eyes narrowed. "You have no proof." I gently tapped the pocket holding the flash drive. "I believe I do." Before he could answer, Sienna suddenly spoke. I copied everything. Everyone turned toward her. She was shaking so badly that her water glass rattled against the table. I emailed copies. Garrick's face lost all color. "To who?" She didn't answer. "I asked you a question." His voice exploded across the room. Sienna flinched, instinctively, automatically, like she'd done it hundreds of times before. That tiny movement told me more than anything else. People don't flinch from someone they trust. They flinch from someone who has hurt them before. I slowly stood between them. "You're done yelling at my daughter." He ignored me. "Sienna, answer me," she whispered. "I don't have to anymore." The words were barely audible, but they changed everything. Because for the first time that evening, she had chosen herself instead of him. Garrick's breathing became heavier. "You ungrateful little..." Finish that sentence. My voice stopped him cold. "You'll regret this." "I doubt it." His brother stepped closer. "You should leave." "I intend to." "After dinner." "No, with my daughter." Miriam slammed her wine glass onto the table. "She isn't going anywhere." I turned toward her. "Excuse me? Marriage isn't something a woman walks away from because of one argument." I couldn't help laughing. One argument? I looked directly at Sienna. "Sweetheart, how many times has he hurt you?" She closed her eyes. Tears rolled silently down her cheeks. When she finally answered, the room became perfectly still. "He didn't start with hitting." My heart broke. "He started by apologizing." Nobody moved. "He said I misunderstood him. Then he said I made him angry. Then he cried. Then he bought me flowers." She wiped another tear away. Every time, the apology got shorter. The violence got worse. Even Garrick's sister lowered her head. She already knew. She had known all along. I walked over and gently held Sienna's hand. "What happened to your shoulder?" She looked at the floor. "He pushed me. I hit the staircase. My arm broke. And the bruise on your neck." She hesitated. Then grabbed me because I wouldn't tell him where the flash drive was. My stomach tightened. Even after decades of prosecuting violent criminals, hearing those words from my own daughter hurt in a way nothing else ever had. Garrick suddenly laughed. A loud, mocking laugh. "You actually believe this?" He looked around the room. "She's unstable. She's emotional. She imagines things." There it was. The oldest defense in the world. Make the victim look insane. I had dismantled that argument countless times inside courtrooms. Tonight wouldn't be any different. I slowly removed my watch from my wrist. It was an ordinary silver watch. At least, it looked ordinary. I placed it carefully in the center of the dining table. Garrick frowned. "What are you doing?" "I'd like everyone to look closely." A tiny green light blinked beneath the face, almost invisible. Miriam gasped. My smile widened. "For the last 43 minutes. This watch has been recording every single word spoken in this room." Nobody breathed. It also transmitted a live backup to secure cloud storage. Garrick stared at the watch, then at me, then back at the watch. His face turned white. "You recorded us." "I certainly did." His brother rushed toward the table. I picked up the watch before he could touch it. "Don't." His voice cracked. "No. You can't use that recording." Oh, I absolutely can. State law allows one-party consent. You threatened me. You admitted abuse. Your mother admitted abuse. You destroyed any defense you hoped to have. Miriam suddenly looked terrified. I didn't mean, no. I interrupted. So you didn't say your son taught her obedience? She opened her mouth. Nothing came out, because she knew. She remembered saying it, and now, so would a jury. Garrick's calm finally shattered. He lunged toward me.
Give me that watch!
His hand grabbed my arm, hard. Pain shot through my shoulder. Before he could pull me closer, Sienna screamed.
Estio!
The sound echoed through the entire house. It wasn't the frightened whisper I'd heard all evening. It was raw, powerful. Years of fear exploding into a single word. Garrick froze for just a second. Then, the front doorbell rang. Once, twice, 3 times. Nobody moved. The bell rang again. Then came a firm knock. A deep voice echoed through the hallway.
Police department!
Open the door. Every face around the table changed. Garrick looked toward the entrance. Then back at me. His eyes were filled with panic. I calmly smiled. I believe. My guests have arrived. Outside, Justice was finally standing at the front door.
The moment the words, police department,
Open the door, echoed through the house. Every person at that table reacted differently. Sienna grabbed my hand. Her fingers were ice cold. Miriam looked toward the front door like she'd seen a ghost. Garrick, however, didn't move. For several seconds, he simply stood there, staring at me. You called them, he whispered. I smiled calmly. I told you, you picked the wrong woman. His face twisted with anger. You planned this. No, you planned it for yourself the day you decided violence was easier than honesty. The doorbell rang again. Then another hard knock. Mr. Ashford.
This is the police department. No, you're inside.
Garrick suddenly turned toward his younger brother. Go. Delay them. His brother nodded and hurried toward the hallway. I watched him leave without saying a word. He wasn't going to delay anyone. He was going to hide evidence. I immediately pulled out my phone. One quick text. He's moving evidence. Rear hallway. I pressed send. Less than 5 seconds later, I heard footsteps running outside the house. The officers had received my message. Garrick noticed. His expression darkened. You've been one step ahead this entire time. I've been 30 years ahead. I spent my career prosecuting men who believed they were untouchable. You aren't unique. You're simply predictable. His confidence continued disappearing. For the first time since I'd arrived, he looked afraid. Then, the front door opened. Heavy footsteps filled the hallway. Several voices echoed through the house.
Police! Nobody move!
Commissioner Raymond Fletcher entered first. Although he'd officially retired from field operations, he still carried himself like the detective I'd known for over 20 years. Tall. Calm. Impossible to intimidate. The moment he saw me, he gave a slight nod. Then his attention shifted to Garrick. Mr. Ashford. Step away from Mrs. Montgomery. Garrick forced a smile. Commissioner. This is just a family misunderstanding. Before Fletcher could answer, another group entered behind him. 6 men and women dressed in business suits. Ashford Industries Board of Directors. Leading them was Diana Davenport, the chairwoman, one of the sharpest corporate leaders I'd ever worked beside. She looked directly at Garrick. No, this is an emergency board meeting. Every ounce of color disappeared from Garrick's face. What are they doing here? Diana held up a thick folder. Reviewing evidence. She looked toward me. Mrs. Montgomery, I believe you have something that belongs in this investigation. I reached into my jacket. The flash drive. Every eye followed my hand. I walked across the dining room and placed it into Diana's palm. She nodded once. Thank you. Then she handed it to the company's forensic technology director, who immediately connected it to an encrypted laptop. Within seconds, folders appeared across the screen. Hundreds of documents, thousands of emails, financial records, bank transfers, corporate approvals, shell companies, fake consulting contracts. The room became perfectly silent. The technology director looked up. It's all here. Diana crossed her arms. Open the payment history. More files appeared. Millions of dollars, transferred over several years, small amounts. Always below the level that would trigger automatic audits. Brilliant. Calculated. Illegal. Commissioner Fletcher looked toward Garrick. Care to explain? Garrick shook his head. I've never seen those files. The technology director spoke immediately. You signed every authorization digitally. You also approved each payment personally. Garrick swallowed. Someone forged my signature. Diana calmly opened another folder. This contains security logins. She turned the laptop. Every transfer originated from your office. She clicked again. And from your home network. Click. And from your personal laptop. Another clip. And your fingerprint unlocked every encrypted folder. The silence became unbearable. Garrick's brother suddenly appeared in the hallway. Two detectives walked directly behind him. One officer held a cardboard storage box. I found this hidden inside the laundry room. Inside the box were shredded documents, external hard drives, burner phones, and nearly $50,000 in cash. Commissioner Fletcher looked at Garrick's brother, trying to clean up. The young man looked at the floor. He didn't answer. Fletcher nodded toward the detectives. Take him into custody. Me handcuffs clicked shut. Miriam suddenly stood. This is ridiculous. My son would never steal from his own company? Diana quietly opened another document. Oh, this email appears to say otherwise. She began reading aloud. Mother, once the promotion is official, nobody can remove me. Another email. Destroy the old invoices after Sienna deletes the copies. Another. We'll blame accounting if anyone asks questions. Miriam's knees nearly gave out. She grabbed the back of a chair for support. No, no. Diana looked at her. There's more. She opened another folder. Bank statements. One account. Then another. Then another. Each one connected to Miriam. Each receiving money from the same fake companies. The room filled with silence once again. Finally, Miriam whispered, I didn't know. Diana interrupted. The transfers are signed with your authorization. Another detective stepped forward. Mrs. Ashford, you are under investigation for conspiracy, fraud, money laundering, and evidence tampering. She looked toward Garrick. Do something. He couldn't. For the first time in his life, money couldn't help him. Power couldn't help him. His family name couldn't help him. Then stop him. Emily Chen quietly entered the dining room carrying a medical bag. She walked directly toward Sienna. I'm here to help. Sienna looked at me. I nodded. You don't have to be afraid anymore. For several seconds, Sienna simply stood there. Then, she slowly removed the scarf covering her neck. Fresh bruises. Old bruises. Finger shape marks. Dr. Chen's expression changed immediately. When did these happen? Sienna took a shaky breath.
Some yesterday.
Some last week. She hesitated. Some months ago. The room became deadly quiet. Even the detectives looked shaken. Doctor. Chen carefully examined her broken shoulder, then looked toward Commissioner Fletcher. I want these injuries photographed immediately. They're consistent with repeated physical abuse. Garrick suddenly shouted.
She's lying. No.
The voice came from behind him. Everyone turned. It was his younger sister, the only member of the family who had remained silent all evening. Tears streamed down her face. I saw him. She looked at the detectives. I saw him push her. I heard her crying. I never said anything. She covered her face. I was too scared. Garrick stared at her in disbelief. You betrayed me. Oh, she slowly shook her head. No, bye. I finally stopped betraying her. At that moment, Commissioner Fletcher stepped forward. He looked Garrick directly in the eyes, then calmly said the words every criminal fears hearing. Garrick Ashford, you are under arrest. As the handcuffs closed around his wrists. The man who had spent years controlling everyone around him finally realized something. His empire hadn't fallen because of one flash drive. It had fallen because one frightened woman finally found the courage to tell the truth. And one mother refused to stop listening. The sound of the handcuffs locking around Garrick's wrists echoed through the dining room. For the first time since I'd arrived, he looked exactly like what he had become. Not a respected executive, not a successful businessman, not the charming husband everyone admired. Just another man who believed power placed him above the law. He stared at me with pure hatred. "This isn't over." I met his eyes without the slightest hint of fear. "It was over the first time you raised your hand against my daughter." Commissioner Fletcher gently guided him toward the front door. "Watch your step." As Garrick walked away, he suddenly twisted toward Sienna.
You'll lose everything without me.
His voice echoed through the house.
The house, the money, the lifestyle.
"You'll come crawling back?" Sienna didn't answer immediately. For years, those words would have terrified her. Not anymore. She slowly walked forward until she stood only a few feet away from him. "I already lost everything." She looked directly into his eyes. The day I stopped feeling safe in my own home, a deep silence filled the room. Then she smiled. A real smile. The first genuine smile I'd seen from my daughter in years. But today, I got my life back. Garrick's expression collapsed. Commissioner Fletcher nodded toward the officers. "Take him." As they escorted him outside, reporters were already gathering beyond the front gate. A news travels quickly when powerful people fall. Camera flashes lit up the driveway. Microphones stretched toward the officers. Someone shouted, "Mysterious. Ashford, did you assault your wife?" Another reporter yelled, "Did you steal millions from Ashford Industries?" Garrick lowered his head. Just hours earlier, he'd expected tomorrow's headlines to celebrate his promotion. Instead, every news station in the city would be talking about his arrest. Inside the house, detectives continued collecting evidence. Every room seemed to reveal another secret. A hidden safe behind Garrick's office painting contained passports, luxury watches, stacks of cash, and confidential company contracts. Another detective discovered 3 different cell phones hidden beneath loose floorboards. The forensic team recovered deleted emails from Garrick's laptop. None of them were actually gone. Technology remembers almost everything. One investigator approached Commissioner Fletcher. "Sir, we've confirmed nearly $9 million missing." Fletcher slowly exhaled. "Notify the FBI." This just became a federal investigation. Meanwhile, Dr. Emily Chen carefully finished documenting Sienna's injuries. She photographed every bruise, every scar, every broken bone. When she finished, she gently closed her medical folder. She looked at Sienna with kindness. "I need to ask something." Sienna nodded. "Were there other times?" My daughter closed her eyes. "There were many." Dr. Chen remained silent. "Sometimes silence is kinder than interruption." Sienna continued. The first time," he cried afterward. "He said he'd never do it again. I believed him." She looked down at her hands. "I blamed stress. The third time, I blamed alcohol. Then work. Then me." She took a shaky breath. Eventually, he stopped giving reasons. Tears filled my eyes. As a prosecutor, I'd heard stories like this hundreds of times. As a mother, hearing my own daughter say those words nearly broke me. Dr. Chen gently squeezed her hand. "You survived." Sienna nodded slowly. "Because I kept hoping. And hope isn't weakness." "No, it isn't." An hour later, the dining room looked completely different. Evidence boxes covered the floor. Detectives labeled photographs. Forensic accountants copied every file from the flash drive. Ashford Industries' board of directors remained seated around the table. Nobody cared about dinner anymore. Diana Davenport finally closed her folder. As she looked toward me,
Evelyn, I owe you an apology. I frowned.
For what, when almost promoted him? She sighed deeply. If Sienna hadn't copied those files, he would have been running the entire company tomorrow. I nodded. Fortunately, my daughter is much braver than she believes. Deanna smiled at Sienna. You saved thousands of employees. She looked confused. I was only trying to protect myself. You protected everyone? Deanna explained. If Garrick had become chief operating officer, he would have gained authority over every financial department. I could have hidden the thefts for years. She paused. Maybe forever. The room became quiet again. One decision, one flash drive, one act of courage, it had changed everything. Late that evening, after most investigators had left, Commissioner Fletcher walked over carrying a thick evidence folder. He handed it to me. We're going to need your testimony. You'll have it. He smiled. I never doubted that. Then his expression became serious. I've investigated violent crimes for nearly 40 years. I waited. You know what I've learned? What? The strongest people aren't the loudest. They're the ones who stay calm while everyone else loses control. He looked towards Sienna. She learned that from you. I looked at my daughter. No. I think she finally discovered it inside herself. Just before midnight, Sienna and I walked out of the house together. Neither of us looked back. We didn't need to. Some places deserve to become memories. As we reached my car, she suddenly stopped.
Mom. Yes?
She hesitated. Are you angry with me? The question stunned me. Why would I be angry? I stayed. I kept making excuses. I didn't tell you. Her voice cracked. I should have left sooner. I gently held both of her hands. Listen to me. You survived. That isn't failure. She began crying. Real tears. Not tears of fear. Tears of relief. I thought you'd be disappointed. I pulled her into my arms. My beautiful girl. The only thing that would have broken my heart is if I'd arrived too late. She held me tighter than she had since she was a little girl. For several minutes, neither of us spoke. We simply stood there beneath the quiet night sky. Eventually, she whispered, "Can we go home?" I smiled. Wes, we're going home. As I started the engine, I glanced once in the rearview mirror. The Ashford mansion was still glowing with police lights. Officers continued carrying evidence boxes through the front door. Everything Garrick had spent years building with lies was disappearing one box at a time. He had once told my daughter she would have nothing without him. He couldn't have been more wrong, because the most valuable thing she ever recovered that night wasn't money. It wasn't the house. It wasn't justice. It was her freedom. And sometimes, freedom is the greatest victory of all. A year has passed since that unforgettable Sunday. Sometimes I still wake up thinking about the moment I first saw the sling on Sienna's arm. Not because I enjoy remembering it, but because it reminds me how close I came to losing my daughter. Not to death, but to fear. People often believe healing happens the day someone escapes an abusive relationship. It doesn't. That's only the beginning. The real healing starts the next morning, and the morning after that, and every morning after that. The criminal case against Garrick moved faster than anyone expected. Once investigators examined the flash drive, they uncovered far more than simple financial fraud. The evidence was overwhelming. Emails, bank records, corporate files, security logs, medical reports, and video footage, and, of course, the recording from my watch. Every threat, every insult, every confession, it all became part of the official investigation. Faced with mountains of evidence, Garrick eventually accepted a plea agreement instead of risking a public trial. He pleaded guilty to domestic assault, unlawful restraint, witness intimidation, financial fraud, conspiracy, and multiple federal financial crimes. The judge sentenced him to 11 years in federal prison. His mother, Miriam, pleaded guilty to conspiracy, money laundering, and evidence tampering. She received 6 years. Garrick's younger brother cooperated with investigators. Even so, He was sentenced to 18 months for helping conceal financial records and destroy evidence. Justice had finally arrived, not through revenge, but through truth. Ashford Industries survived. The board recovered millions of dollars through frozen accounts, seized property, and insurance claims. Employees who had been blamed for Garrick's crimes were publicly cleared. One young accountant, whom Garrick had planned to frame, was promoted instead. When Diana Davenport called me a few weeks later, she smiled through the phone. "We're rebuilding." I answered, "Build it with honesty this time." She laughed. "We intend to." As for me, retirement became much busier than I expected. I spent more time helping survivors of domestic abuse than I ever had while working as a prosecutor. Sometimes all someone needs is a lawyer. Sometimes they need a safe place to sleep. Sometimes they simply need one person willing to believe them. I learned something important during those months. The question victims hear most often is, "Why didn't you leave?" The better question is, why did someone make them believe they couldn't? There is a world of difference. Sienna's recovery wasn't easy. Some mornings she woke from nightmares. Loud voices still frightened her. She apologized constantly, even when she had done nothing wrong. Healing isn't a straight road. Some days felt like progress. Others felt like starting over. But little by little, the frightened woman who avoided eye contact slowly disappeared. She laughed more. She slept better. She started painting again, something she hadn't done since college. One afternoon, I walked into her apartment and found colorful canvases covering every wall. Landscapes, sunsets, flowers, and one painting that made me stop. It showed a small bird flying out of an open cage. I smiled. "That's beautiful." She smiled back. I wasn't painting the bird. What were you painting? Myself. Several months later, Sienna made another decision. One that made me prouder than any courtroom victory I'd ever experienced. She opened a nonprofit legal resource center for victims of domestic violence. Not because she wanted revenge, because she wanted hope. She named it Open Door Legal Center. Its mission was simple. No one should ever feel trapped because they're afraid to ask for help. On opening day, dozens of volunteers gathered outside the building. Attorneys, counselors, therapists, police officers, former survivors. Everyone believed in the same mission. I quietly stood in the back, watching. Sienna walked to the podium. She looked nervous. Then she smiled. Years earlier, she would have searched the crowd looking for Garrick's approval. Now, she only looked for her own courage. She began speaking. "I used to believe asking for help meant I was weak." She paused. "I know now that asking for help was the bravest thing I ever did." The audience applauded. Some people cried. So did I. Before the ceremony ended, a young woman stood near the entrance. She looked frightened. Her hands trembled exactly the way Sienna's had that Sunday afternoon. She almost walked away. Instead, Sienna noticed her. She walked across the room, opened the door, and smiled. "I'm Sienna. You're safe here." The young woman immediately burst into tears. Sienna gently hugged her. Watching that moment, I realized something. Garrick had spent years trying to control one woman. Instead, his actions inspired countless women to reclaim their lives. That is justice in its purest form. Sometimes people ask me whether I hate Garrick. The answer surprises them. No. A hatred gives people power they no longer deserve. I don't hate him. I simply believe he belongs exactly where he is. Actions have consequences. Choices create futures. He made his choices. Now he lives with them. Every Sunday now, Sienna comes to my house for dinner. Not because she has to. Because she wants to. She usually brings dessert. Apple pie. Just like the one I carried to her house that terrible afternoon. Sometimes we laugh until our coffee grows cold. Sometimes we sit quietly on the porch watching the sunset. Neither of us takes ordinary moments for granted anymore, because ordinary moments are extraordinary when they're free from fear. One evening, she looked at me and asked, "Mom, Do you think I'm finally okay? I smiled. No. She looked confused. I squeezed her hand. I think you're finally happy. And there is a beautiful difference between surviving and truly living. Today, my daughter isn't merely surviving. She's living. She's smiling. She's helping others. She's free. And that's the ending I prayed for the moment I walked through her front door. Story summary. A retired prosecutor visits her daughter for what should have been an ordinary Sunday dinner, only to discover shocking signs of abuse hidden behind the image of a perfect marriage. Staying calm instead of reacting with anger, she quietly sets a plan into motion. As hidden evidence comes to light, years of domestic violence, corporate fraud, and family betrayal are exposed. With the help of law enforcement and the company's board of directors, the truth finally prevails. Garrick and his accomplices are brought to justice, while Sienna begins rebuilding her life, transforming from a frightened victim into a strong advocate who helps others escape abuse. This story reminds us that abuse often hides behind closed doors and behind perfect smiles. Real strength isn't staying silent, it's finding the courage to speak the truth. Family isn't defined by wealth or appearances, but by those who protect and stand beside us when we need them most. Justice may not come immediately, but truth has a way of finding the light. Never ignore the quiet signs that someone you love may be suffering, because one conversation, one act of courage, or one person willing to listen can change a life forever. Thank you so much for listening to this story. If you enjoyed it, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss our next emotional story. If this story touched your heart, leave a comment below and let us know what lesson stayed with you the most. Thank you for your support. Stay safe, take care of the people you love, and I'll see you in the next story.